you mean.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, okay, this means there is no winter here, you know.
It's amazing. Same continent, just different environment.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It is fantastic. Let's see. Okay, can you take a picture and then I'm gonna do the we are live and then see and then copy on my what's this? You can do it from
No.
Primera, are we good to start?
perfect.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Yolanda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very fine, Yolanda. Nice to have you. Super
Absolutely.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes. Kathy, we can start. It's all right.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for joining in. Thank you, Primera, for co-moderating this session with me. Happy Women's Day to all of you out there. My name is Catherine Namara. I'm an electrical engineer by training. I work as a project manager, business intelligence, MTN Uganda. That is my day job, and I'm proudly associated with MTN. My other role as a woman who wants to empower girls to lead, I'm a mentor and in a project called Girls for Girls. Our role, our mission really is to leave no girl behind. We need more women in leadership positions. And so that is why we are here. As a mentor and a co-lead for the STEM session, for the STEM cohort in Girls for Girls, I'm also a global lead for strategy and fundraising. In order to reach the ends of the earth, we need to have goals set. My co-moderator, Primera Muthoni, is here with us. Primera, kindly introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm going to use the Girls for Girls greeting. That's how we are always super excited. Super excited today. I'm going to be supporting Kathy as she moderates this session. As she said, my name is Primera Muthoni, and I work for MTN Uganda as a product specialist. And I design some of the products that you love to use on your app, on the USSD menus. And then after that, I work with Kathy with the STEM sessions for Girls for Girls. I'm a mentor there, and I really enjoy my work there as a mentor. And then I also, on the global stage for Girls, we are in 23 countries. I work as the global lead for marketing, partnerships, and outreach, basically to make sure that we reach as many countries as possible. Kathy said we want to have 1 million mentees and 10,000 mentors by the year 2030. And that's what we're trying to do. And today, MTN Uganda is helping us reach that. Yay! I'm super excited. And MTN is already in 22 countries. I know in 23 countries. So for me, today is really, really an amazing day where MTN Uganda gets to work with Girls for Girls in terms of reaching women out there on Women's Day. As a woman who works in MTN Uganda, it's Women's Day is special in office. It's only that we have COVID and we're not in office, so I'm really sad. It's usually a beautiful day with HR and with the men in our office. They celebrate us literally. So for me, not having going to office feels a bit sad for me this year. But all the same, this platform gives me a day where we are going to be getting together and we are going to be talking and having a good conversation with an amazing lady. I'm super excited to listen to her story today. So over to you, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Primera. And our guest speaker is already in the house. She's a beautiful woman and she works for MTN. Today, I'm proud to say that Girls for Girls is hosting this webinar with MTN Uganda, who is also our employer. MTN celebrates women and pushes for diversity in which they empower women to grow in the workplace. But also we have seen this happen outside the organization through their CSR initiatives that are focused on maternal health. This ensures that a woman is well-rounded and empowered in and out of the organization. We are proud to be associated with MTN for doing this with us and for doing great work for many women out there. Please call in your colleagues to join in the webinar. We're live streaming on the MTN YouTube channel, as well as the Zoom link. Kindly share, because this is going to be an amazing, amazing session. In line with International Women's Day theme, choose to challenge women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. We are here with a wonderful woman. She's an innovator, a trailblazer, a woman in tech, a woman who has embraced change. Ladies in the house, please welcome with me an amazing lady who is going to give us tips and nuggets on how we can move further. Her name is Yolanda Cuba. Miss Yolanda, you are most welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to be with us here today. Among your several activities, you've chosen to be with us here. She is the Vice President, Southern and East Africa of the MTN Group. Having joined in January 2019, she has served as the Group Chief Digital and FinTech Officer prior to her current role. She's the former CEO of Vodafone Ghana and former Group Chief Strategy Officer for Strategy, New Business and M&A at Vodacom Group, covering South Africa, Tanzania, Mozambique, DRC, and Lesotho. She comes with a wealth of experience in telecoms, financial service, and fast-moving consumer goods, among others. Her work experience started in corporate finance and transitioned to operational management in diversified industries. Yolanda is one of the youngest CEOs of a GSE-listed company at the age of 29 years and has been recognized as CEO of Business Personality of the Year by multiple platforms over her 20-year working experience. She was also selected by the World Economic Forum as one of the young global leaders and named one of the Chazol 100 Africa by Institut Chazol, France. She has served on several GSE-listed companies as non-executive director, including ABSA Group, where she was the longest serving member for 12 years before resigning in 2019. Yolanda is a chartered accountant by training and holds a Bachelor of Commerce Statistics degree, University of Cape Town, and a Bachelor of Commerce degree in Accounting Honors, University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. She has a Master's in Commerce from University of Pretoria, and she's an alumnus of programs at INSEAD and Harvard Kennedy School. She's passionate about education and inclusive social and financial development, and has served on advisory board of Stellenbosch University Business School, a founder of Cuba ET Foundation, and has served on the Nelson Mandela Foundation Investment Committee. Yolanda has also been named as Forbes' youngest woman in business. Ladies and gentlemen, Yolanda is here with us. Yolanda, beyond this wonderful bio, beyond the woman that we know, who are you?
Kathy, thank you firstly for having me on your platform. I'm really grateful, and I'd love to wish each and every woman on the platform a happy International Women's Day. It is a day to pause and to celebrate not just each other, however, to actually teach the men that are around us to also celebrate us and give us equal opportunity. So happy Women's Day to all of you. And I hope you have a fantastic day, and definitely a fantastic COVID year as we go through this year, because I think there is so much opportunity whenever there's a dislocation in society, whether it be caused by macroeconomics or something like a disease like a COVID situation. You know, whenever there's dislocation, there is new opportunity for us to actually exploit, whether in business or indeed just as women. You asked me a question, where me? You know, I mean, as you were reading, I was actually shocked that you were talking about me, straight enough, you know, and from my side, I mean, it's been a long journey. It's a long journey of pushing myself, of being exposed to the right mentors, and actually also going out there and saying, if someone says it cannot be done, and I ask, why not? Right? If someone says it is impossible, and then I started with, it's impossible for you. However, you've never tried me. Right? And for me, those are the kind of stuff that has actually made me push through, go through different things, go through different industries. I mean, I get asked a lot of time, Yolanda, how did you transition from FMCG, from you were in corporate finance and so on, you ended up heading up digital and fintech for MTN. How did you do that? How did you transition into telecoms, to be CEO of a telecoms company, and so on? And really, there are three things, I guess, that I would say that I've used in my life. The first one is around competence, right? Firstly, to say, Yolanda, there is no substitute for competence, right? And basically saying, if there's ever anyone who's going to be knowledgeable on specific topics in the room, it is going to be me, and owning that space and taking that space. And for me, whenever we do that, right, where we say we've got talents that God has given us, right? However, you educate for skill, right? And I added on the skills. As you were reading my bio, I was actually surprised that I've actually studied so much, And what is interesting is that I actually did my my master's actually being in a group exco of a really of a listed company, right? How do you do that? You actually have to create the time. I used to let my kids go to bed at about 7:30, and then actually only start looking at my books at around 9:30 when I'm even finished with my work, and then only sleep at 12, 1 o'clock. But you have to say, I only am going to do that for 2 years, right? And then after the 2 years, you've added another skill onto yourself. So for me, competence was a big part of how I got there, right? And basically, I mean, no one could, when I joined telco, no one in my exco could outspeak me except the technology director on technology. Because I sat and I went into Google. I used to tell people that I've got Dr. Google PhD, because any question I had has already been asked by another one of 7 billion people in the world, right? So for me, it just is about that level of curiosity that you need to have. The second element is around consistency. I mean, for me, I mean, I'm not one of those people that actually can do a marathon, right? I'm not one of those, and I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to be, and so on. I've got lots of friends that run 90 kilometers of Comrades Marathon. I'm not one of them. However, I'm willing to say I'm going to do 10 minutes, 20 minutes of something almost every day, right? And if you are that consistent, you actually add on to yourself. And whatever I apply my mind to, I tend to be able to achieve, because I believe in applying consistent effort, even if it's 10 minutes. When I speak to my daughter, she's like, I want to be great at maths. She's only 12 years old now, and she said, I want to be great at maths. And I said, to be exponentially better, you only have to do 10% more than everybody else, right? And 10% more than everyone else. So in a day, she studies, when she gets home after school, she actually looks at her books only for 30 minutes. And I said to her, 10% more, how many minutes is that? She said 3, right? So for an extra 3 minutes every day, only for 5 days in a week, right? You can be actually exponentially better. And that extraordinary effort, that we actually apply is what actually gets us noticed. And it is what actually puts us into a place where we are able to actually achieve some of the things that we need to achieve. The third element of how I've managed this transition is courage, right? No matter what happens, without courage, you can have all the skills, you can have all the competence, right? However, if you don't take chances, when they actually appear, then you are not going to get there. The good thing about adding to your competence and having that consistency is that when there is a crack in the window, a small little opening, right? You recognize it. You recognize it because you are ready. While everyone else is waiting for the door to open, you actually are looking at that crack on the window to say, actually, there's a little bit of wind coming in there. I'm gonna go for it. By the time the door opens and everyone comes in, you're already in the front of the queue. So how do you actually then think about courage? Is by stepping up. When people actually say there is this opportunity, don't first ask, am I qualified? Ask yourself, why not me? Why not me? Right? I mean, we all know that women start off with, a lot of women, not all women, let's be clear, you know, a lot of women start off with a checklist. Do I have this skill? Do I have this skill? Do I have, you know, and they go through everything. When an opportunity comes, you know, it doesn't come nicely packaged in a little box with a bow on it, right? Sometimes it is rugged and you actually have to be able to actually jump in and then say, I'm going to learn the skill when I get there. You know, what we all tend to forget is that we are all promoted into positions of incompetence, right? We forget this, right? I mean, if I tell you now you are head of products today, or you are head of technology today, or whichever field you're in, and then I say to you, I'm going to promote you to be the the CMO. Can you actually today perform the role of a CMO? The answer is you don't have most probably all the skills that are required, right? However, a lot of people will take the role because they say it's the next natural thing in the ladder that you're climbing. And the reality is there is nothing that stops you from learning a new skill. I'll give you an example. I've decided, for example, that I'm going to now start learning how to fly, right? So I've signed up. I went to a friend of mine and said, take me flying in these little planes. It took me flying so that I'm not scared the first time I get into like the little small ones. And then afterwards I said, okay, now I'm ready to get into a stranger's one. And basically I got an instructor and I said, let's do this, right? And I can tell you now that putting yourself into constantly these environments that actually stretch you, that actually make you uncomfortable until you are comfortable is what actually makes a difference. So bravery is really important. Courage is important. You know, often they say that history only has time for people that are outstanding, right? And if you combine these three things, you actually realize that you become outstanding without even trying.
Wow, wow, wow. Miss Yolanda, thank you so much. And those are some of the things, the traits that women have, but do not have the courage to showcase because they're waiting for permission. But you've made it so clear, bravery. You see a crack and you're willing to take the chance. Why? Because you rise up to the occasion. When a challenge is up front, you rise up to the occasion. And thank you so much, because as Girls for Girls, we have the principles of courageous leadership, negotiation, and these are the issues, the pertinent issues for us to get into those positions that can effect change. And we also have the courage for you to be visible is something that may not be inborn. But when we see women in positions such as yourself, and then we are definitely liberated from our fears. And so I'm happy to hear that you also had mentors. You did not just show up one day and come up as VP. You had mentors, people who told you, by the way, it's possible. And whoever came up to you after that, after you were sure that it's possible and said it's impossible, you know, you brush it off and say, by the way, I'm going to do it. It's possible. And I'm really, really happy because in the culture that we are brought in, that we are brought up in, we do not get the chance to put up our hands. The rules of the home are already set. You do not have the chance to do that. But here we are as women breaking that status quo. We remain respectful, like you said, but bring up your competence. What do you know? Knowledge is power. Those little efforts of every day. What do you want to learn? challenge yourself. Women, thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing up and for coming up strong to say that we are here and we choose to challenge. Miss Yolanda, having risen to your new position in the times such as this, what are some of those challenges that you've faced? How have you been able to overcome? Because COVID-19 is not normal. And yet you've been given a position in which you are meant to influence. You are meant to make changes. How have you been able to overcome the challenges?
I guess, I mean, the first challenge that I faced is that I joined MTN in January last year, January 2020. And we were supposed to have our global conference on the 1st of February. And I was like, oh, I will go and meet the rest of the MTN family, and I'll travel to the opcos within after the GLG and so on. By the time the GLG came, it was cancelled because of COVID. So I've actually had to establish all my relationships with the MTN family via virtually and in a COVID world. You know, that comes with specific kind of challenges, right? And the first one, which is the most obvious one, is how do you collaborate with people you've never built a relationship with? How do you actually learn to actually take out the best in your team if you've actually never been really in a single environment? How do you make sure that what is important to you in terms of culture and ways of work is actually transmitted in order to be a high performing team? And for me, that was most probably the difficult part of COVID, right? And what I then had to do is actually sit back and say, what is it that I have to learn and unlearn in this environment? The first and biggest unlearning I had to do, you know, I know we all say, you know, we trust our people 100% and so on. It's different when your people are outside your door, right? And you can see them when they work, and you can actually say to them, oh, are you doing this? Or are you check up on that, and so on and so on. However, when COVID hit, it didn't allow for that, right? And with me, with a new team. So I had to practice what I always had said, but never really practiced in reality, which is trust, right? So if someone asked me, what was my biggest lesson during COVID? What was the biggest thing that I had to learn and unlearn? The first one was around trust, that you actually have to trust people to deliver whatever it is that they need to deliver, if you from your side actually set the vision correctly and you let them do it without you interfering, right? And that letting go, it was the first time that it had to happen for me, because there was a big dislocation, right? That happened between sort of presence, physical presence, and basically productivity, right? Because we believe that in order for our employees to be productive, they have to be in the office. So location now was literally broken from sort of your work environment. And then how do you actually make sure that people are able to still continue doing what they're doing? And the first one is trust. You have to actually set the vision correctly. If you're not setting it correctly, then don't be surprised by the outcomes, right? It is your responsibility. So I actually spend more time actually dealing with what is the vision, basically why are we doing what we're doing, and what is the right things that we need to actually deliver. And I'm leaving the how to everybody to do, right? And for me, that was a big kind of moment. The second thing that actually happened with COVID is it forced me to actually upscale my ambition. I know a lot of people during a pandemic actually downscale ambition, right? It actually forced me to upscale the ambition, because when I spoke to my team, I was saying, like, we can do 2 times what we actually are doing. And there's a reason for it, is that people are all not sure, right? So your ability to influence in a dislocated kind of environment is so much greater. You know, I mean, Ebenezer, who was the VP for CM before me, he used to say, never waste a good crisis, right? And basically, actually defining what you want to achieve out of the crisis is really important. Otherwise, what happens is that the crisis happens and you actually achieve nothing in that crisis. So how do we deliberately actually set those kind of things in order to make sure that we are able to achieve what we need to achieve? And then specifically as a woman, I did make sure that I do have a cluster of women around me, because there are specific challenges that we face that most other people do not face, right? I mean, I when it came to homeschooling, for example, right? My kids are at school, at home. I'm in meetings the whole day. How do you deal with it, right? How do you deal with this multitasking woman who actually has to provide for the children and then also be able to actually do their work and be productive and produce results for MTN. And the reality is you actually do it with a lot of help.
Wow.
One of the things that you learn is that you cannot do it by yourself. You cannot do it alone, right? And for me, that was one of my greatest lessons once again, or a reinforcement of the lessons that I learned when I was much younger, when I started off in my career, is that, behind every successful woman, there's an army of competent, motivated women actually pushing behind her. So when you see me, just remember that there is an army behind me that is actually making sure that I'm able to do the kind of things that I am able to do.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Miss Yolanda. And to think that for so many years, women have been lobbying for work from home rights. I think the pandemic could have become an enabler for the lobbying to go right. Or what do you think? Will it be easier for us to work from home now that we've shown that it's possible? Or has it been difficult on the businesses?
It depends on the nature of your business, right? In our business, it's shown us that it's much easier, to be honest, to do these things. I mean, what happened with the COVID pandemic? Just remember, the technology was always there. We always had connectivity. We had Zoom, we had Microsoft Teams, and so on. Before COVID, it was the rate of adoption that was really, really slow. So even with our own policies, we actually had flexible work, right? We've had flexible work all the time. But what was missing was that thing that says now you can trust people. If I wanted to work from home, people they used to have to ask for their manager for permission from their managers. If you actually and I remember when I was in Ghana, we actually set the policy, we said you can actually work from home between Tuesday and Thursday. Monday and Fridays, you can't work from home, right? What does that say? It said that there is a trust deficit. I mean, we didn't say that, but the underlying actually issue is that there was a trust deficit, right? And now, basically, people are working from home Monday to Monday. And what have we seen?
Yeah.
We've seen the people that are super engaged in their work tend to work longer, which also has its own negative kind of issues. And the people that were actually laggards are actually working less, right? I mean, that's the nature of the curve, right? And for me, I mean, if I look at the overall positive momentum that we're seeing, I think this will benefit not just women, but also men, because now you are more in control of what you're wanting to achieve as an individual rather than as a gender-based issue. I mean, there are men that actually appreciate now actually working from home because now they know they've actually gotten to know their children better. They know their kids' schedules. They now can play soccer in the afternoon with their kids. They can cook pancakes with their kids in the morning, things that never used to happen. So strange enough, I mean, I think overall we'll look at this time as a positive time for humanity. Of course, there are some negative things that we've seen, especially because we sit in our industry. Connectivity, for example. I mean, COVID, unfortunately, although it actually impacts everyone, it infects everyone, let's say, on an equal basis, the outcomes that come from COVID are very unequitably distributed. You know, if you don't have connectivity at home, then you are not learning. If you are at school, right? If you had connectivity at home or you went to a good school, then you ended up actually learning. What does that actually do overall? Over time, what happens is the people that are better off with better connectivity are going to zoom ahead while we leave behind the vulnerable, the ones that don't have connectivity. And that's why every day when we go to work, we actually have to say, how are we connecting everyone that needs to be connected? How are we making sure that everyone actually gets what we keep on saying, that they deserve the benefits of a modern connected life? So every day we actually have to make sure that more and more people are connected in order to enjoy the benefits of this connected life that we keep on talking about.
Wow. Thank you so much, Yolanda. I think now MTN, it's time for us to really be everywhere we go. Everywhere everyone goes, MTN has to be there for connectivity. Thank you so much, Yolanda. I love the fact that you said that wherever you see a successful woman, there is an army behind, an army of motivated, inspirational, brave women pushing her on. And I think that at a time like this is what every woman needs to learn. We build trust with our networks. These networks will fuel us into positions we would want to be in. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Primera, what's in the chat room? Any questions for Miss Yolanda? Any comments coming in from the audience?
I have very many. I have very many questions. The first one is, how have you built your personal brand in the era of digitalization and globalization?
Wow.
Ooh, that is a mouthful of a question. How have I built my personal brand? I built my personal brand around competence. You know, in everything that I do, I make sure that it is my competence that actually leads. It is not me as an individual. So what you have to do is literally learn, right? Learning, curiosity. I meet people, whether it's in the corridors, whether it's people that I meet when I go to a seminar or a course that I do. I meet people and I discuss with them the areas that they are involved in. And in that way, actually create new, almost neurons in my brain of curiosity. You know, I mean, before I joined MTN, just before I joined MTN, while I was waiting to join when I was on my garden leave, I mean, I did a course, an international course on transformation, on digital transformation, and so on, and how platforms works, and so on and so on, and that is really around a knowledge base. That's how I've grown up. It doesn't mean that everyone uses the same kind of model, but choose something that you want to be known for. Choose something that, and I chose, by the way, to actually be known for what I do, right? Around technology. When I was focused on finance, I was known for being a financial guru, right? And then when I'm in technology now and digitization and IT, I want to be known as a guru within the space that I actually operate in. You actually have to be in the top 10% in your space in order to be well known in your area, right? And to actually get to the top 10%, by the way, as I said, it only takes 10% more effort than everyone is willing to apply. So I use that extraordinary effort, that extra 10%, to actually make sure that I propel myself forward within that digitization space.
All right, that's really nice to hear. Just 10% more every single day, like literally adds on to how much we are learning every single day. So Amanda agrees with you when you say there is no substitute for competence. And then she goes on to remark about your living room. She says it's so chic, and she's like looking around and saying, "Oh my goodness, look at her background, and it looks very nice." Yeah, that's from Amanda. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Kathy.
Wow, thank you so much, Primera. And yes, Miss Yolanda, you look amazing. Your home is amazing. And it's clear as a mother, as a woman in a position of power, you wear so many hats, and yet you have to keep grounded. How have you been able to keep grounded?
You know, the beauty about having children is that you have more than enough to keep you grounded, right? Your kids, you come home with a little award and they're like, look, this is what you come home like, this is what I got, da, 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 da. And then they're like, oh, really? And then that's the end of it. You know, they just don't see like, you were mom yesterday, you are mom today, right? I had today, I've got people in my house that are helping me with the video, right? And basically, you know, when we're getting ready, I saw that it was a little dirty on the one side of the room. Went to get the broom, started sweeping, right? And in reality, life should keep you humble, right? You know, I mean, it really, at the end of the day, if you do not forget where you come from, you will remain humble, right? People around you shouldn't be people that are just blowing hot air up your whatever. They should be people that are able to stretch you, people that actually remind you where you come from, and people that are really able to hold you when you also fall, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we are here as humans journeying into this in this earth in order for all of us to leave it better than what we found it. That's it. I mean, this is a simple journey. And, you know, I mean, COVID has made us also realize the importance of human life, the importance of our purpose in this life. I mean, if anyone on the call today actually hasn't sat and reflected about their purpose, I encourage them to do so. Right? What is my purpose in this life? And if you remain true to your purpose, then you will succeed. By the way, one of the things that I did early on, again in my career, because of the mentors that I had, you know, I was able to actually always say, how do I align my ambition, work ambition, with my purpose? Because normally we don't actually deliberately link the two.
Yes.
And that's why I've always found joy in what I do, right? Because I'm always constantly saying to myself, even if the job pays more, I'm willing to walk away from it because it's not aligned to my purpose. If I feel like I'm in an industry where I have cognitive dissonance about being in the industry, which I did have in one of the businesses that I joined, you know, and I said, you know what, my purpose is not aligned to this. I need to leave this industry and move on to an industry that is more aligned to what I want to feel and in what my purpose is in this world. You know, I'll give you an example again of one of my mentors that, you know, when I was this young, you mentioned when I was 29, I became a CEO of a listed company. It was fantastic. Everyone gives you attention and da-da-da and all this kind of stuff. And then I had this one mentor, Simon Sussman, who is now the chairman of Woolworths here in South Africa. And he said to me, Yolanda, you know, anyone can be a shooting star. That's what he said. He said, anyone, not because you're special, anyone can be a shooting star. But what's going to make you sustainable? Right? And when you have people like that in your life, actually being consistently not putting you down, actually saying, you know, if you go up there, anyone can get an A at school, right? Anyone can get an A once, anyone can get an A once. But the trick is, how do you consistently do it? Not just to have it once. And in that period, when Simon said that to me, it took me like 3 days or 4 days sitting and reflecting just on that one statement he made. Right? before I realized that, okay, in order for me to remain relevant into the future, to when I'm 40, when I'm 50, to still be relevant, then it means I have to add repeatable models of success in my arsenal, right? And it was at that time, by the way, that I actually decided to go to INSEAD for an executive program. It was at that time, again, that I decided at a point in time I have to do my master's within a specific field. It was at that point when I said, I actually need to join a company that has been able to do this, apply repeatable models of success, not once, not twice, but a gazillion times over. And by the way, just to give you a sense so that people don't think I'm lying, I can say this publicly. When I made that decision after that discussion with Simon, with my mentor, I phoned up the then CEO of MTN. I phoned up the then CEO of SAB Miller. And why did I do that? Because I said these companies are companies that were born in South Africa, in the south tip of Africa, and have gone out to be global giants in multiple territories, which means they must have learned or must have a muscle memory on how to build companies over and over and over and over again, right? I mean, SAB was the #2 global brewer in the world. MTN, top 10 in the world mobile operator, right? So that's how I made my decision. I went to those two CEOs and I said, I asked for a meeting with them, by the way. I didn't know Putuma at the time. I had met Norman once, the CEO of SAB Milan in South Africa. I had only met him once. And I said, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I want to do. Yeah. And I said, do you have a role for me in your company so that I can learn these things? And fortuitously or serendipitously, I ended up at MTN 10 years later. And before that, I actually did go to SAB. I joined SAB. They did create a position for me within their exco for me to join them. But without courage, remember when I said courage?
Yes, yes.
That position didn't exist. The position I wanted didn't exist. I picked up the phone and called people I didn't know. Right? And that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Yolanda. And it's something, one thing to be competent and another thing to be vulnerable. You're vulnerable enough to know that if I want to go somewhere, I have to adopt these repeatable models. How am I going to do that? I have to make the first step. Jim Rohn always says, no one is going to do the push-ups for us. No one. You are the one with a burning desire. You have the purpose. You want it to align with that goal that you have. How do you do it? It's not going to be handed over to you. No one is going to look at Yolanda and her credentials on LinkedIn and say, by the way, Yolanda, we have this position for you. Yes, it can happen. But many times we're stuck. We are stuck in positions we're even unhappy about. But because we do not have that vulnerable, that vulnerability to raise up our hands and say, no, I need to be better. I need to do better. How can I do that? Reach out to those people. And again, girls and ladies on the call, you've seen that throughout the story, Yolanda keeps emphasizing the importance of mentors, the importance of mentors. Yolanda, in our industry, what are you doing about this women empowerment? How are we going to move forward? Because we come from a corporate environment that seems to have some sort of barriers between the levels. Yet there's that little girl at entry level who would want to aspire to be like you. How are you going to do that? How are you going to introduce that kind of flexibility within our workspaces to empower us? And especially after COVID, many of us have lost motivation. We're wondering what's next. People have been fired from their jobs. Businesses have lowered our incomes. How are we going to do that? How are we going to move forward? If we have women like you in leadership, what is going to be done about that?
Yeah, I guess within COVID, there are two sets of issues. There are things that we can do if you are in business, and then there are things that we can do with outside business. The first one is to actually create an environment of possibility, right? I mean, we have to actually consistently be having sessions like this one to actually keep on encouraging people not to give up, right? Because there are opportunities even within COVID, but unfortunately, not all of them are as obvious, and a lot of them are not going to come on a silver platter, right? As you correctly said. So how do we actually make sure that we are consistently engaging, not putting out the light for people, and instead actually brightening the light and saying, hey, please, here are the opportunities. Don't lose your sense of worth. Don't lose what you are what you can be. However, in order for each one of us, though, to be able to actually make sure that this light actually ignites, is that each and everyone must be adding and be willing to pivot from where they are. That's what COVID has taught us, right? That if I studied to be an accountant, and there are limited opportunities in accountancy in this changing world, then maybe what I should be saying is, how do I become a data science specialist? Right? Because in this COVID world, there is more data being actually created per second than ever before in the history of humankind. Right? So now, then you have to pivot to what is relevant in this in this context. I mean, I remember reading some stats about a year and a half ago saying that there are less than 100 data scientists in the entire Africa put together.
Yes.
1.5 billion people, and there's less than 100 data scientists. Right? What do you call that? I call that opportunity. Someone else might think of it as scarcity, but I think of it as opportunity. What are those areas now that are becoming more and more relevant for people to actually be able to go into? Secondly, how do we then, if you lose your job and so on, how do you turn what is a passion into a service? You know, people always tell me about their passions and so on and so on, and they're like, I don't know how to turn my passion into a business, because how do I do that? I'm like, you have to work out. You have to sit in your house, think about it, take a walk. I don't care what you do. Think about, how do you turn your passion into a service? You know, those who have passion for gardening, okay, now how do you turn gardening into a service? Do I actually slice it up and say, I can come, I start calling people and say, I can come to your house to do your garden for 2 hours a day or whatever, right? How do you turn whatever it is? I don't care what kind of passion it is. I mean, one of my key passions is dancing. I've been dancing, ballroom dancing, since I was 8 years old, right? A friend of mine, and like in a flippant moment said, but Yolanda, I mean, you are being too theoretical. How do you turn ballroom dancing, which is your passion, into a service, into money, right? And I said, you know, the first thing I would do is actually do ballroom lessons for beginners. I will record it and then start marketing ballroom lessons for beginners. That's it, right? But anything, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, even if you like knitting, whatever you do, right? How do you turn it into a service? And if you can turn that into a service, that means you are definitely going to be able to actually sell it. If it's something physical, you can turn it into a marketable product, and you can then sell it, right? Wow. The guys that did hair products, right? They started off, a lot of them, with liking hair and so on, and then they ended up selling products to us. You know, so what is it that you like? So how do you do that in this post-COVID world is really important, and actually starting to package. By the way, in a world where there's about 7.5 billion people, you can sell something to someone every day. Wow. Okay, full stop. I take no excuses on that one. You can sell something to someone every single. That's my view. Okay. And then the second thing is within corporate, right? within corporate, what is it that we can do to actually improve the lot of women in that environment? The first one, if you are in HR and you're listening, okay, the first thing you can do is basically go back to your office, look at what we call pay parity between females and males. Okay, and that pay parity of between 20 and 30% that we see between women and men, get it corrected, right? Because that means we are working 100% of the time and getting 80% of the proceeds. If that was 100,000 rands, for example, in my local currency, 100,000 rand that a man is getting, you as a woman, you are getting 20 to 30,000 less. Why should we accept that, right? So if you're in HR, please go out there and let's talk about pay parity. The second thing is, if you are an executive in leadership role, when there is a recruitment drive, whatever role it is, make sure that women are part of the shortlist, right? It is very easy, especially in our industry, which is very technical, to say there are no women, you know. And basically, we actually have to get to where women are part of the shortlist. If they're not part of the shortlist, then we are not going to actually make any difference. We're going to let the kid that is sitting, that little girl that is sitting in the junior level, and that, you know, that believes like, can I make it to level 5? Can I make it to level 6? They won't believe it if they are not part, they are not seeing the visible change in business leadership around these things. And anyone can do that. Everyone interviews for a job within MTN. You know, you are an interviewer. Insisting that there are women in the repertoire of people that are getting interviewed is all our prerogative. And then the last sort of lot of people is society in general. Society in general can make sure that we are teaching girls, we are teaching boys that there is such thing as equality. And equality is equal to equity, right? That actually it is equitable to have an equal society. And by the way, when I say equal, I know in our African countries and so on, you know, we actually think of, if he actually cleans, I mean, if I as a woman clean the kitchen, I can't expect my partner to be cleaning the kitchen or cooking or whatever. Equitable doesn't mean the same. It means you might take out the bin while I clean the kitchen, right? It is about equity. It is not about equality, that it's the same, right? And for me, teaching boys that there is such thing as equity. Yes, there are boys that must learn to cook. There are girls that must learn to cook. There are girls that will never learn to cook, right? And let's accept that as the reality that we live in. And equity for me means also freedom to choose. Freedom to choose whether I want to be a housewife or I want to be a corporate woman, right? Because somehow people think, you know, I mean, it's not a choice being a housewife. I'm saying it's a choice, but it's a choice that I have to make. It's not a choice that must be imposed on me, right? And to be a corporate woman, it is a choice that I am making to be a corporate woman or not. You know, the day I decide maybe, but you know what? I don't like this corporate thing. I just want to sit at home and raise my kids. People must respect that decision as much as they respect the decision for me to say, I want to be maybe the next CEO of Amazon.
Wow. Thank you so much. You've caused a lot of buzz on social media where we're streaming in the chat room. Primera, it was a hallelujah moment for us. Are there any comments from the? Oh my God, I see the questions are coming in.
Yes, I really have so many questions. So many questions for Yolanda. So under Girls for Girls, we have a very interesting first session called Building Trust. You touched on it earlier when you were talking about the teams and COVID, which was very nice to touch on it. And then we have another session we call Courageous Leadership. basically literally embody the values and everything we teach and everything we mentor through that session, in terms of having an awesome village, being able to be courageous, being vulnerable, to be able to express those things. So now there's a question. How have you been able to overcome situations where you feel like you are kind of stuck, or areas where you navigate and then you feel like you enter a boardroom and you feel like
Definitely, I've been there. So when I joined the board of APSA Group, right, which was Barclays Africa for most people that are on the call, so it's the same group. I was about 20, 28, 27, I can't remember, somewhere around there, right? And I mean, everyone in the room, the first time I walked into the boardroom, right? Everyone in the room was at least 20 years my senior, you know, and everyone else didn't look like me. So in South Africa, we also had racism that was sort of our history, that was part of our history, which is apartheid. And basically, you know, no one looked like me either, right? So there were lots of people that were white and much older and male in the room. So how do you actually deal with that? The first meeting, you walk in there, you are timid, you are intimidated, you sit there and you're like, if I say something, I might say something wrong, right? That's what you say to yourself. You're like, if I say something, I might say something wrong. The first meeting, you go through it and you survive it, literally, because you spend the whole time questioning yourself. However, after that meeting, I went out, went to my friends, and I said, Banzi, there's a friend of mine who's a lawyer. I said, Banzi, you've been dealing with EPSA for a long time. You know, how can you help me to prepare for my board meetings? Okay. And he actually said, Yolanda, I'm available. If you have an issue like this, I'm your man, right? And these are people I trust, right? You can't go around talking to people about board issues that you actually don't trust, right? And then the second thing I did, I said, you know, I'm going to go into EPSA itself, to the second level management. So the people just below the board, and actually ask permission to have access to them in order to understand the business better, as well as to understand each of the components of the businesses better. And I did that, right? So I ended up actually, the people that I was closest to at APSA was the second level below the board, right? So below the exco level, because those are the people that I was engaging with, actually saying to them, explain to me, what does loan loss ratio mean? What does loss given default mean? How do you price for a car loan? How do you price for a bond? How do you do this? How do you do that, right? And in all those kind of interactions, you know, I used to have this little moleskin black book, and I used to write copious notes, you know, that I would go back home and refer back to and read in order for me to actually build that. And basically, what had I figured out? I had figured out what I said at the beginning, that there is no substitute for competence. If I went into that room without being competent on the subject matter that was being discussed, then I was going to be just an empty vessel in the room. And the other thing that I did, I chose an area where basically I will actually be, inverted comma, an expert on the board on. And that was anything financial, right? So if there was something on page 267 out of 550 pages, I was going to find that issue, right? I read things in detail. When I say in detail, I mean, if there was a spelling error on page 257, I found it, right? And for me, that's where I then actually got my confidence from, by actually building competence in a specific area. And basically by doing that, I mean, I then joined the audit committee of the bank. And basically, then you are forced also then to actually further hone your skills within that space in order to be able to actually add value into that space. I mean, I guess the biggest kind of affirmation I got was maybe 3 years into my tenure in the bank, when the deputy chairman actually came to me and said, you know, Yolanda, we are considering you as a chairman of the audit committee. Right? A bank doesn't consider people as chairman of audit committee just in jail. You know, it is because they actually explicitly trust you to be able to do the right thing and be able to apply the right kind of professional competence onto an issue. And I was like in my early 30s then. I was like maybe 30, 31, I don't know, somewhere around there when that happened, right? So for me, those are really important. That is a very important area in which one has to develop themselves. Is choose an area of competence, but be best to almost just be in that top 10%, no matter what happens in that area.
Thank you so much. You are officially a mentor for girls, literally. So,
Yes.
Rita Motlana, Naniki, you have a new team member here in South Africa. I will definitely connect you to an amazing country lead, Rita Motlana, and you get to work together in South Africa. You embody all the values that we actually mentor at Girls for Girls: courageous leadership, creating an amazing village. And I want to go back to that point where you say that you have very strong women around you who have been able to support you in your growth. The question around that is, how have you been able to maintain very strong relationships with those women? Under Girls for Girls, one of the things we talk about when we are trying to mentor each other, we try to say we are lifting up each other, and we are going to really be there for each other, and we're not going to basically create an environment where we are backbiting each other, or we are not good friends. Like we just literally give ourselves to the other person and let them grow. How have you been able as a woman and creating time to be able to, because it's not simply just making friends, but being able to create that time to bond with them, like with a heavy schedule, and yet you're still having to make that time to grow yourself as a person, and being able to be humble enough to take that feedback from another woman who says, you know what, Yolanda, this wasn't like the right thing to do. How have you been able to do that?
So, I mean, the most important thing is that relationships take work. And, you know, you can't be a passive participant in any kind of relationship. So for me, that's the most important thing. Every relationship I have and that I want to have and I want to maintain, I actually make the effort. You know, I mean, there are people that will call you all the time and so on, irrespective of whether you call them or not. But more people than not, especially the ones that value themselves, they will not keep on calling you or trying to be in touch with you after realizing that you are not keeping in touch with them. Full stop. That's how it works. Whatever you feed actually grows, right? Whatever you make time for actually flourishes. And for me, that's important for us to actually always bear in mind. So when I talk about my mentors, there are times when I have to call my mentors. There are times when my mentors actually call me. And I make a distinction between my sponsors and my mentors. And that's important. And then the people around me that actually support me, I call them my support team, right? As far as I'm concerned, I'm in a team, right? Yes. Maybe I'm the captain of this team, but I'm still in a team. I need every component of the team to actually work. If it's a soccer match, you know, there's 11 players on the field that are actually working towards a goal, a specific goal. And each one of them have a role. Some are in defense, some are in attack, some are in the midfield, right? And basically understanding that everyone has their own role to play in your life, and you have a role to play in theirs. Remember, some people are fed by the fact that maybe you become successful, some people become fed by the fact that they become more successful in their own roles by actually associating with you. Actually understanding what your role is and how you play or feed off each other then is really, really important. So for me, that's how I would actually answer that question, Primera, because I just think, if you think you're gonna be a passive kind of stand-by in any kind of relationship, you are not gonna win. It doesn't matter whether those are work relationships, whether if those are personal relationships, or whether those are what I would call more professional relationships. That for me, everything actually takes work. So I actually invest in all of them. And now because of these messaging services, you can create groups, you can do all sorts of things. It actually feels like it's more engaged than what it is in reality, to be honest. But every morning, every second day, every week, you can actually just send a message to someone and just say, I'm thinking about you, how are you doing? And that's enough. Sometimes that's just enough. I don't want someone who's going to write me a thesis every week about how I'm adding to their lives or how they're adding to my lives. I'm not interested in that. Sometimes it's just a hi, how you're holding up. Are you holding it down? Right? And my answer is, I'm holding it down, dear. And that's it. And we don't speak for another 2 weeks. Right? And that's enough. And that's what I mean when I say it actually is a two-way street. It's really some give and takes and understanding that these are give and takes.
All right. Thank you so much. I have a comment from Stella. She says, you're glowing. Like, you look so nice today. And then I know you had talked about it earlier, but you can just expand on it a bit. She also asks, how are you able to do work-life balance, especially through COVID? You talked about homeschooling, but like in a practical kind of way, how have you been able to actually manage that work-life balance? Because COVID came at a time where you actually have young children at home, and then you had a new role to take on. Like, how has that been for you?
I'll say it's not without challenges. Firstly, a long time ago, I accepted that the work-life balance issue is not a static kind of issue. It's not about an equilibrium, right? It's about balancing over time, not at a specific point in time. And by actually accepting that as my own reality, I'm not saying it's your reality, it's my own reality, it actually allowed me permission to say there are times when I'm going to be over-invested in work, right? And under-invested or shortchange my own family in the process. And there are times when I actually over-invest in the family and under-invest in work. And basically, how do I then balance that out over time is what's important. My kids, for example, we sit down and they say to me, Mama, we know you're busy. However, you have to attend this, that, and that, and that, right? And basically, all those things are scheduled in my diary, right? Because they say, we know that you can't attend every softball match, every netball match, every this match. However, if you attend the play that I have at the beginning of the year, the one at the end of the year, the awards evening and this and that, that's enough, and basically being able to work with a system that actually understands where you are and how they fit as well is really important. I mean, when I just had my first child, I went to a university, a business school here at Gibbs, and I was giving a talk, and someone in the room actually asked me, Yolanda, how do you get work-life balance with the child? How do you make the choices and so on? And I actually made sounded like a very controversial statement, and that statement was, my children should fit into my life, not the other way around. Right? Because somehow we actually transpose this thing. We forget that we actually have our own lives, and anything around it, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's this, they must fit into what you are navigating. And if your navigation is, I want a balance that is 60-40 family or 60-40 work, then that's That's what you are navigating towards. As long as you are communicating to everyone that this is my navigation path, people will come with you. There are times when the balance is not there. Let me be honest with you, but you must accept it that it's temporary. The problem is when it's permanent, right? And by the way, the one thing that COVID made easy for me is that, now I can come onto a screen and my son actually comes. When was it, 2 weeks ago? He was actually sick and he refused to sleep on the bed. He wanted to sleep on top of me. All I did was ask permission to switch off my camera while I participated in the meeting. So he was sleeping on top of me. I actually took a selfie because he didn't believe that he was going to even fall asleep on top of me. And I said, and that's the beauty of being in this environment, is that we can actually be taking care of our babies in our arms while we're participating in the meeting. If in the normal kind of world, we would never have been able to do that. You either have to leave work and go home and take care of the kids, or you actually just stay at home with your little one. So there are pluses and minuses, but overall, I think on balance, it's all good. I'm trying to find this selfie with my little one about 2 weeks ago when he was sick, And as I say, I mean, it really is how do we make it work for us? How do we make this COVID era work for us? If we're not asking that question, then we're just going with wherever the river leads. The flow of the river actually leads to the left or the right, then that's just where we're actually going to be ending up. Control it, have a plan for it, and then we will get the outcomes that we want.
All right, thank you so much. Just one more thing, I would like you to expand on it a bit. There has been so many questions around it, and that's why I'll just take you back a bit. We talked earlier about COVID and women who are either working or who had businesses that were really affected. You gave an example of being an accountant and then moving on to data science, but there are so many other, we have so many women right now who were really, really affected by COVID, and just a little more advice on how they can just start themselves off once again, and just give them a bit of some nuggets that they can use to be able to pick themselves up after all this. Some, they have lost their jobs, they had businesses that are no longer running as they were before. Maybe they're in just personal business, or they're in employment. Yes.
Yeah, I think, if you are living in this, okay, let's say we all are living in this COVID world, right? And you've lost a business, right? The biggest thing is actually the loss of capital, right? That you actually most probably do not have new capital to invest in a new initiative, right? Because there's always initiatives. In a COVID world, for example, in South Africa, one of the simplest things that's happening is that people are doing house calls for food, right? And that's flourishing. And people are doing house calls for hair and all sorts of stuff. That's flourishing. So what are because people are avoiding actually going into the malls. And then the other one is, which I experienced last week when I traveled, is people doing house calls for COVID tests, right? That person is actually driving to my house, coming and testing me, and then going back and sorting out the results and so on, right? There are areas that are flourishing. So there is no one simple kind of answer to this is what you do. What you have to do is sit and look at where are the opportunities within this environment. There are things that are not opportunities in this environment, things that just will not work because we are social distancing. But there are things that are going to work. Are you actually sitting down and actually systematically looking at the opportunities that are there? Service-based kind of services are easiest to actually do, by the way, to start a business. Product-based is a little bit harder because there you need capital in order to either manufacture the product or actually get the product. When it comes to digital, a friend of mine actually was telling me that they are actually ordering things on Alibaba and direct shipping, right? And they've created a page where they actually direct shipping from Alibaba to someone's house. So they don't never even touch the product, right? So what are those opportunities for you? You know, so you actually have to do the work. There is no shortcut to doing the work. You actually have to sit and say, where are the opportunities? How do you create opportunities within this environment? For example, one of the things, I'm a closet interior decorator. One of the things that that actually has happened in the last couple of months is that people have realized the importance of a nice, comfortable environment, right? And all of a sudden, people are buying chairs, tables, things to decorate their houses and so on, right? How do you stimulate demand in an area where people actually there is latent demand in the system? Where are those areas of latent demand? And that's the work that people actually have to do individually. For the people that are still interested in being employed, I mean, guys, you have to keep on trying to get new employment. There isn't another way that I can suggest. Is literally going on LinkedIn, phoning people up, like I did, by the way, and saying, this is my value proposition. Remember what I did? I went to those people and said to Putuma, and I said to Norman, this is my value proposition to you, right? This is what I can be able to do. But in return, I want you also to do this for me. Right? No one is going to actually employ you just because you're saying, I want this from you. Right? No one's going to employ you. So what is your unique value proposition? What are you known for? Right? Because if you're not known for anything, right, and you are one of these people that say, I'm just a generalist, right, then don't be surprised at the outcomes that you struggle more than someone who is known for something in order to actually get ahead. So what are you known for? Ask yourself, what are you known for? When I was talking about competence earlier, what are you known for? What is your area of competence, right? People gravitate towards competence, full stop. People forgot about my age, right? They were much older than me. They forgot about my age. They actually gravitated towards competence. By the way, you do the same as well. The people in your team that you work with that tend to actually deliver very, very well are the people that you tend to give more work to, right? Because we don't actually go to the guy that actually delivers the least and say, okay, can you please keep on? So that's why people who actually do well are consistently overloaded with work. It's because people gravitate towards competence. You do the same, I do the same. So yeah, so if you actually want to actually succeed in the corporate space, if you want to actually be able to find an area that is, if you want to find permanent kind of I call it mental safety, because it's not a permanent job. No one has a permanent job, by the way, guys. And COVID has also highlighted that. The financial crisis actually highlighted that. But you can have this permanent estate where people are always thinking about you if they are looking for a specific kind of competence. And then you would have done well within that space.
Great. Thank you so much, Yolanda. So what are those things you enjoy doing when you're not working? What are those things? If you could share with us.
When I'm not working, I enjoy dancing. I enjoy doing strange things, by the way. Like I enjoy walking, I enjoy traveling. With COVID, it's like the worst thing now. As I said, I'm a ballroom dancer, and with COVID, I cannot dance, right? Because I'm in close proximity with someone, I'm touching someone. And so that's been for me the worst part of COVID. And that's why I've decided, okay, I'm going to start a new passion point, which is flying. So that I can do.
All right.
Yeah. So and also, I enjoy spending time with my kids. So my kids and I have family day once a month. And our last family day, which was on the 13th of February, was the day before Valentine's. We literally spend the day. We start in the morning, we go somewhere, we have breakfast, and then we go somewhere in between, somewhere interesting. It always has to be something interesting. then we go to the movies, and the last one we went go-karting, right? We're racing in those go-kart cars, you know, and things like that. And for me, that's what I love doing, is just experiencing new things with them, and that sort of fills my soul, and it actually makes sure that I actually spend quality time with them. And when the three of us are together, we try and make it just about the three of us. No work, no other people, just the three of us.
All right, thank you so much.
By the way, Primera, I saw someone who said they are a timid person. They never actually take opportunities because they are shy and insecure, you know, and this is something that actually happens often, you know, that people feel like they don't have the courage, right? And what I want to actually say to someone, and this is something that we've all read, that courage is not the lack of fear. We all have fear. You know, if you don't have fear, then I'm sure you're not living in some way, right? Even today, when I walk into a boardroom of MTN board directors, you know, there is a little bit of fear in me, you know, and I'm certain even Ralph, as our group CEO, has a little bit of fear in him when he walks into some of the meetings. So it's not the lack of fear, it's about preparation, right? Firstly, it's about preparation. You actually anchor yourself on the fact that you are prepared and you know the subject matter better than anyone in that room, right? And that's important. The second part of it is that you actually have to force yourself. Insecurity here actually is something that you can learn to actually work with. So, you know, I mean, in my language, I say, fear likwala. Likwala means, you know, someone when there is a fight, I don't know what's the right word in English, when there's a fight, that always run away. It's a coward. Yeah, fear is a coward, right? Because, you know, when I started off, I used to actually count to 10, force myself to say, by the time I finish number 10, when I count, I should have spoken to someone, right, in a room full of people, because I'm actually a natural introvert, and I am a learned almost extrovert, right? I've learned to be actually outgoing and so on and so on when it comes to groups of people. So I had to force myself, for example, to say, how do I, in a room full of people, actually approach people that I don't know, right? And basically, again, count to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the time I reached 10, I was challenging myself that I would be speaking to someone. And by the way, you know, you form new relationships. The benefit of actually starting that relationship outweighs the fear or the insecurity that you had, because the benefit is so much more, to be honest. So always think of the benefit rather than why you shouldn't do something. If I could only speak to Catherine, then the benefit for me could be X or Y. And you would see consistently that the benefit actually outweighs the moments of fear. You know, every leader has had fear. There's no leader that has never actually never had fear, including me.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Over to you, Catherine.
Powerful nuggets from you, Yolanda. Thank you so much. To know that it is true, it has been affirmed that courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is doing it anyway. You do it anyway. Do whatever it takes, as long as you know the benefit of why you're going to do it anyway. And Maya Angelou always said that we have so many roads ahead of us, but it is up to us to choose that one road that's going to lead to the place where we shall find our fulfillment. So ladies, even in this COVID era, if you're on a road that's leading to nowhere, it is okay to take a stop, look back, think, and then take on another road. And I love the fact that you emphasize that we can pivot from anywhere, shout about what we are doing, Are you on LinkedIn? Are you on Instagram, where your products can be sold? Shout about it. No one knows the passion that you have unless you show it out in the world. Thank you so much, Miss Yolanda. Thank you for joining in today. You have really made our lives a lot brighter, just like MTN does. Thank you so much for sparing the time. Girls for Girls is forever indebted to you, and you're always welcome. Feel at home with us, just like we felt at home in your lovely living room. And thank you so much for encouraging us that in spite of our past, in spite of our failures, we can be better, and we can make that woman looking at us better. I think the message from all this is we have a chance, we've been given a chance to make a difference. Looking at you, Yolanda, you have opened doors. And I would like to congratulate you upon your new position. I remember the day you got into that position and you posted on LinkedIn. And then Kamala Harris, the Democrats had already celebrated Kamala Harris. And then you put the two pictures side by side, that a new dawn is upon us. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Because of you, because you've broken that glass ceiling, we have been liberated. To me, there is nothing impossible. And thank you so much for shouting about it, that a woman can be anything and everything she chooses to be. Any last remarks from you, Yolanda?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine, and thanks, Primera, and everyone for having me. And thanks for the platform of Girls for Girls. I think these are important platforms to actually lift and shine that light and continue to ignite the passion of young women, the capability of young women, and so on. So from my side, I mean, my last words are very simple. Let what you want, your purpose, actually drive your passion and drive your outcomes. And in order for that to happen, we have to have the three elements that I actually mentioned right at the beginning. You have to have the competence and drive it hard, right? You have to be known for something. The second element is that you actually have to have, what did I say? I want to see if someone was listening. I said competence. I'm trying to see if anyone's going to write anything on the side there.
Consistency.
There you go. The second one is consistency.
Consistency and courage.
Applied. There you go. And lastly,
competence.
Courage.
Yes.
Right?
Consistency.
When we use our passion to drive these three things, aligned with our purpose, we will reach our goals. Full stop. And we will consistently be breaking new grounds. For me, it's not about the glass ceiling that gets shattered or anything. It's about us breaking new grounds. I want a woman to actually say, I was the first in the world to do X. Full stop. Not that I was the first woman to do it. I was the first person to actually do X or Y. We are actually breaking new grounds. We have to, as women, actually say we are capable of breaking new grounds. And if we're able to do that, then we actually start expecting more from ourselves. And it is in that expectation of more that we then are going to sit down and say, if I want that and it's there and it's not set here by someone else, right? How do I get there? The steps to get here are very small, right? Small. But in order to get here, you have to take giant leaps. What are our giant leaps as we think about Girls for Girls and our own personal futures as well?
Wow, thank you so much, Yolanda. Breaking barriers and creating new frontiers, not as a woman, but as the first person. Thank you so much. We're not here in competition with the men. We're here to collaborate and make the world a better place. And as we move forward, as we choose to challenge ladies, let us go forth, light our candles and make the light brighter everywhere we go. For that little girl who is watching us, let her be better, let her know better, and let her aim higher than we've ever dreamed of. Thank you so much. Our co-moderator, Primera Muthoni, thank you so much. You've done an amazing job, amazing job. Girls for Girls, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, thank you so much for joining in. We look forward to the next conversation. Miss Yolanda, thank you so much once again. Looking forward to meeting you in person as well. Thank you so much. Because of you, we know we can be better. Ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely afternoon and enjoy the rest of the Women's Day. Remember that we are breaking barriers, creating new frontiers, even in the COVID era. This is not the end of everything. This is the beginning. A new dawn is upon us.